I think that the very distinctive thing about me is that I'm not afraid to lose anything. I'm not afraid to give it all I have. I'm not afraid to let go of what's familiar. I'm not afraid of risk. I take them often. And I'm not afraid to invest in myself. I'm not afraid. There's something about going through life not knowing and feeling worthless and not feeling like you are worth anything. And the light coming on and say, not only are you worth it, but you are worthy of so much more. And being able to say, I am my greatest investment. I am worth the investment.
Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. What a tremendous week we've had here, and another tremendous week, another amazing, loving, beautiful guest today. And I'm just in awe with the beautiful Khalilah Johnson is here in our studios recording this amazing show for you right now. So Khalilah, how you doing today?
I am awesome. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you, Mr. Gomez. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, don't call me Mr. Gomez. You're going to make me feel older than the dog already.
Okay, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Our dog is called Mr. Bucket, and Mr. Bucket's old.
No. Okay, I won't do that. Daniel it is.
Khalilah Johnson is an up-and-coming, tremendous speaker, amazing coach. I just love her. She has an amazing vibe. She's just full of love, and the only thing bigger than her heart is her smile, and you see her smile just radiates through. So, Khalilah, I love my guests to introduce themselves. So, tell the world here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, who is Khalilah Johnson? Tell us about this beautiful smile, too.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel. I am Khalilah Johnson, as you said. I am an author, I'm a speaker, and I am a certified trauma support specialist, transformation, and legacy strategist. And it is my biggest life goal to use the disadvantages of my life to be able to help those that are walking through the same road that I've walked through and many others. So that's who I am, and that's my God purpose.
That's your God purpose. Well, awesome. So I'm looking at your beautiful back wall behind you. It says, work hard and stay humble. So that just caught my attention right now. So I think, humility is a big value to have. And sometimes it's hard to stay humble. I can tell you just for myself, I've stumbled many times in staying humble because sometimes we don't realize that you brought up God. He gives us a level of success and we think it's all us. And in reality, it's not even who we're doing anything. To me, it's like God's the one that opens the doors. So give us what's your definition of staying humble, humility, if you may say?
I think the easiest thing for me to know, and of course we all struggle with that because it's the moment people applaud you or anything, we can forget that it is not us. It is who lives inside of us. And I think for me, coming from humble beginnings, coming from a very, very hardship where people know my story, they know my background, they know my shortcomings. That's just what it is. They knew that first. It's not hard. People will keep you humble. So people will keep you like, I know Khalilah, but it's God. I know that none of this is without him. None of this matters if he doesn't give me the message, if he didn't turn my life around, if he didn't pick me up from the depths of despair, I wouldn't be here. And so remembering that whenever it gets to the point where people are applauding you, I remember that if it not been for God, where would I be?
Wow. That's pretty awesome. Thank you for that definition. And I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I just feel this in my heart because I saw a video today and it kind of broke my heart. And it's just, I think in humility, sometimes it requires us just to remain silent sometimes. And, you're African American, you're amazing. What have you been going through with everything that's going on? Because it's kind of broke my heart today because I saw a video where it was an innocent woman that was there and white woman and she got jumped. It was a backlash. And, I think it's just, it breaks my heart because I believe that God created us all to be equal. And I'm not going to get into the politics and racial, but I want to know, what has it been like for you? Because I think sometimes we don't verbalize, or we don't get a chance to speak it. And I think by you speaking it today, it's going to just bring healing to your soul too. I just feel like we need to talk about this. And if you don't mind, if you could just open your heart with us a little bit about just what's going on in this season.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. It took me on an emotional, like a roller coaster. Being an African American, but also having my own experiences, having run-ins with the cops, having experiences with my grandmother who was experimented on and at 16, was given polio after experimentation, and so many situations that it opened up a wound, and it was deep. And as I see the images, I literally had to pull back. And I've been in prayer. I've been a lot of tears. There's been a lot of tears. There's been a lot of confrontation. And I understand that confrontation is needed in order for us to move. I believe everything that's going on, as painful as it is for all of us, the conversation is happening. And for me personally, it brought a lot of wounds and uncovering. But I praise God for that, because whenever healing happens, this is what it looks like. It looks like becoming undone.
Yeah. I think I was part of a discussion panel yesterday on this show, and we were just talking about some of this. And what came to my mind was, hurt people hurt people. And I think right now there's so many people, blacks, whites, Americans, I'm Mexican, right?
Yeah.
That are hurting. And it just shows how we suppress our emotions. And it's just like something happens to where it's not even that pertains to what's going on, but we react because we just have so much pain that we're hurt inside. And the analogy that I always use is kind of like if me and you are working in the garden and we get a thorn in our finger, and I say, hey, Khalilah, like, we got to go to the doctor, right? We got to get that thorn out. No, Daniel, let's just finish the garden. And we do it. At the end of the day, we get so caught up in the work that it's like, oh, I don't feel no pain. But next thing you know, we look at your finger and it's like infected. And then somebody comes along and hits it by accident and bangs it. It's like, what happened?
Yeah.
Well, not that you're upset with them, but just the fact that the infection's already inside.
Yeah.
And I think so many of us are infected in the inside. And I can tell you that because I didn't realize it myself, but there'd be sometimes when I would kind of just react in the wrong way because I had a lot of pain. And my 3-year transformation these past years has been phenomenal. And I can tell you that I didn't realize I had all this junk inside of me. Like, I really didn't. So I want to segue into your book because I love what your book is titled. It's called Undefeated. And I think, right now that being undefeated doesn't always mean being the loudest person in the room, right? Being undefeated can be, I love the quote by St. Francis of Assisi, it's like, be ministering at all times and when need be use words. And I think sometimes we can just minister, or we can just be the example by just remaining silent. So tell us, what's Undefeated about, and how did you use that during the season in your life as far as your book goes?
Well, Undefeated is a miracle, because when I woke up one morning, it was 2013, and I heard the Holy Spirit say, write this title down. And it wasn't Undefeated. It was Break the Bondage of Inherited Generational Thinking. And I didn't look at, I was like, I'm not a writer. All my life, I did not consider myself a writer. And I also knew that I thought it was my weakness. And so when I heard that and I wrote it down, I put it in a drawer, I went back to sleep. And so then I started the process of going through my own healing, and I started to go through therapy. I had a Christian counselor, and on the first session, he said, God told me to tell you, you're going to write a book, many books. And I'm like, okay, maybe one day when I learn how to write, And I'm just surprised. And as I told my story, he's like, oh my goodness. He would just listen, and he was in shock because how much I had gone through. And so finally it got to the place where I started telling my testimony at church, and they asked me to go to a testimony service, and I shared my testimony. And before I got off the stage, it was a pastor of many, many churches. I guess he was of the division, and he was on the phone and said, I want to help you write your book. And here we go. And I can't believe it. And I understand that this process, God literally almost pushed me into it because I didn't want to tell all that I told. I was very ashamed. But when I started to tell my testimony, I felt like God was saying, if you let this go, if you reveal the darkest of your secrets, you will be free. And my desperation for freedom led me to be obedient. I was willing to do anything. And so to give you a little bit of the background, it tells the story of me being a teenage mom twice over. By the time I was 17, being molested at 3 years old, of rape at 14, and having that be the cycle of 4 generations in my family, to the exact. Grandmother molested at the same age, raped at the same age, and me being a teenage mother and finally getting to the place where I'm saying enough is enough, and being in a broken marriage with an abusive spouse and trying to take my own life. And at that moment, it was at that place where I'm like, I'm done. There's nothing in my life that is happy. It's all I've ever seen. And because of that expectancy, I just wanted to, I don't even know if I wanted to die. I just wanted to rest and never wake up. And so that level of pain and deep trauma allowed me to get to a place where I remember just letting go. And I found myself, after my mom came and knocked on the door and found me unconscious. Well, she didn't find me unconscious. I eventually was unconscious. I had already taken the pills, and she got me help. And after I went to the hospital, I woke up and these tubes are down my throat, and I'm so angry. Like, why can't you just let me die? If this is the existence, why am I here? And I remember removing the tubes and just snatching them. I didn't know they went so far down, and I was pulling for days. And the nurse says, "You are so lucky." And I'm thinking, luck is nothing to do with this. And after the 3 days in a psych ward, because that's what happens after you attempt your life, I came back home, and I remember being just sitting there because I couldn't sleep. And I remember seeing myself in a vision speaking like I've never spoke before. And I'm speaking and I'm like, God will do it. He will do it. And that person was nowhere near anything that was like me. And I'm sitting here like, is that what I could have had if I didn't make so many mistakes?
So let me ask you this. So there's somebody out there right now thinking about, they're contemplating taking their life. And I want you to speak to that person right now, because I think there's a Khalilah Johnson right now, a male and a female, because we're in some challenging times right now. And I think a lot of people are just overwhelmed, and maybe they lost their job. Maybe they're really like, why bother, right? Why care? Do me a favor and speak to that person right now, because I think they need to hear that, because you and I both try to commit suicide, but I want you to speak to that right now and speak to those people. Talk to them and tell them what's on your heart right now.
For those that are listening to me, it's not by chance. God needed you to hear that He's the one that purposed you. I remember listening to the word of, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. And that would make me angry, because I was like, you knew I was going to go through this. You knew all the things you knew me. Why would you let me suffer? But God is not a God that He allows you to suffer. God is a God that teaches us that even before you step foot into this earth, I knew who you were, and you had purpose, and you still do. I know that the things that are seemingly uncertain all around you, and you may have experienced pain like I did, where every single second feels like an eternity. But I just want to give you promise. There is life after this. There's hope after this. And as a matter of fact, I praise God for every experience that God showed me, because on the other side of this, I realized not only was I not hopeless or helpless, but I had purpose. For every single pain that I suffered, every single dark moment that you experienced, God still will use it and turn it around and show you that you weren't meant to break. You're stronger than you realize. And if you have breath in your lungs, there is someone else that God has purposed you here to affect change it. I just want to tell you, all I remember doing at the moment that I felt as though, well, if I'm not going to die, then you've got to give me enough reason to stay. And I remember asking Him, if you don't show me why I'm here, if you don't reveal yourself to me, and I know that He's not a respecter of persons. I remember getting to that place where I wasn't just tired, I was desperate. And that desperation, although that it seems like you're going down a spiral path, that desperation will be the very foundation where you can just raise your hand and say, I will not give up, but I surrender. And ask him to reveal his self to you. Ask him to reveal the purpose that you still have left. And I promise you, God will use the very pain that you think is insurmountable and use you as a demonstration, because I am living proof. Hold on.
Wow, I don't know who that message was for, but if you've been contemplating suicide, just hold on. That was so powerful, Khalilah. Hold on a little bit longer. Hold on a little bit longer, because you matter. This is Daniel Gomez telling you right now. If no one's ever told you that you matter, I'm telling you right now that you matter. And it's like every storm that comes, sooner or later it runs out of rain. And there might be that storm in your life, but it's coming to an end. And like Khalilah just said, just hold on. Hold on. So when you're in that state, what is something that somebody can do when they're in that state of mind to reach for help? Give us an action step if you don't mind, because I think, they're holding on. Somebody's listening to this show for a reason today. What is it that you want to tell them? How do they seek help, or what do you recommend? Give us just something that helped you. And I think that, you're going to save some people's lives today, Khalilah. I don't even think you realize you came on this show to do that, but I think that's just what our creator wanted for this show. So speak to that person. Give them an action step, please.
The action step that I want you to say is, first, the words out of your mouth. It's not over. I'm still breathing. And once you hear that you're still breathing, you find the closest voice, the closest person to you, whether it be a neighbor, whether it be a phone call, whether it be someone. You start to find something. If it's us, go on Facebook, do something, reach out. There is always someone there that is willing to hear and has an answer for you. Sometimes it gets so heavy. I remember feeling so heavy and overwhelmed that it felt like a mountain. It felt like things were burying me. But I promise you, your breath shows you, the very heartbeat in your chest reveals to you that there is still life yet to live. Find the closest person and reach out. If there is a minister, we have social media, we have all of these different things. Find someone and just reveal your hurt. Open your heart. I think the first step is that. Wow. Acknowledging I need help.
Yeah. I think so many times our pride gets in the way. We talked about humility. Amazing how that goes for circle, right? We talked about humility, and you just got to humble yourself and ask for help. I think so many people, either A, our pride gets in the way and we don't ask for help, or B, we don't think that anybody cares. And well, you have two people right here, myself, Daniel Gomez, and Ms. Johnson here are here to help you. How did you come out of that? So at this point, we can easily say you've lost all your confidence. How did you get back on the road of rebuilding your confidence? And what did you find out about yourself on that point?
I recall that place when I started to have visions. It was almost as if I would escape in my imagination, and just holding on to the fact that there was purpose. So after that, there were people that started to surround me. I started to share, because it's open now. When you attempt your life, people know.
I know that.
So I think that I really know that my mom was a very big support. I had so much resentment for her for so long, and I blamed her for so much, that she was a powerful part of the solution. And I think that was God ordained so that I could truly understand. One of the things I started to do is I started to write out my anger. I started to get it out. Like it's the thing about it is when you hold it in, it becomes bigger than it really is. And so as I started to confess my anger, my pain.
Did you say write it out?
I wrote it out.
Talk to us about that, because I think maybe somebody can use that as an action step. So tell us about, how do you write out your anger? I've never heard of that.
Well, I started to confront how I got here, like it was just like, what is it? And I started to remember I had focused so much on what my mother didn't do for me that I actually had so much anger and resentment. And I just said, let me just get it out. And so I started to just write her a hate letter. I mean, that's the truth. I wrote the anger. You didn't do this. How could you let him do this? Why didn't you protect us? And I started to write out and write out and write out. And as I wrote out all the things that I was angry about, all of a sudden there came this place where I started to kind of look at me. It was like a shift in perspective. And I started to write out, wait a minute, what did I do to my own children? What did I do? And I started to recognize that I had done the same thing. And so that was like a moment of, wow. Like I was so focused in on blaming that I never realized that I was in the same predicament, if not worse. And that started me on a road to prayer. I remember praying and saying, God, reveal me to me. And I believe he started to do that. He started to show me where I was so guided on blame and taking no accountability for the things that I could. Yes, many things happened to me. But there was still power. And it wasn't so that I could have feel condemning and say, oh, look at how bad I am. But it was taking my power back. The moment he was able to reveal to me the steps that I did, the things that I had control over, it was almost this helpless version of me started to disappear. Because if I was the reason that certain parts of my life looked the way that they did, I could also be the reason that could turn around. And through releasing the anger, I started to come to a place of forgiveness. Now, this is a road. This is not, one and done. I made the decision. I forgive my mother, but I still had to keep going back and forgiving and still forgiving because anger still will come up. But the anger wasn't bad. The anger was real. And I needed to allow myself not to push the emotions down. I needed to allow myself to get it all out. And I used the pen to escape that feeling of being suffocated by my own pain.
I love that. Use the pen. Wow. Because we always hear about, coaches say, well, just journal. But this is a pretty powerful way I've never heard it say that way. Just write your anger out. And I think so many of us, what comes to mind is a trash compactor. No matter how much trash you put in there, you compact it. And yes, sooner or later, it doesn't matter how much you push it down, sooner or later, that trash can is going to be full and you can't put any more junk in there. And then it just comes out. And unfortunately, it turns in, like you said, to unforgiveness and then anger. So how did that help you to start rebuilding your confidence? How did writing out your anger translate into that?
It was a weight. There was a weight off my shoulders. It was like I hate to say it, but constipated with all of these emotions that would come out in bursts of anger and like loss of control. And as I got it out on paper, I was able to see it outside of myself and not just feel it. And as you see it on paper, it's almost like you can categorize it. It no longer is just sitting on the top of your chest, squeezing with anxiety and, trauma is lodged in your body. So it wasn't just giving me all of these emotions and feelings stuffed up. I was able to get it off of me and I was able to look at it for what it really was. And while I was able to look at it for what it really was, I realized, wait a minute, she had pain too. And I was able to see, wait a minute, this right here, you can just leave or you can do this. And I started to see solutions through the pain, through the suffering. I was no longer boxed in this corner and I had no way out. I had solutions. I just couldn't see it because I was blinded by my own anger and resentment and bitterness.
Wow. I never, why? Did you just realize what you said? You were blinded by your own anger. And when you release that anger, you have the confidence within yourself because now you start seeing solutions that you couldn't see before.
Yes. It gave me my power back. It gave me my hope back. Yeah.
That is just so powerful right there. I've never heard it said like that. Man, wow. So you start seeing solutions. Of course, now that you can see, it's funny you say this because we just had our windows cleaned to our house yesterday, and you don't realize how dirty your windows are because we lived in our house for 20 years. We're getting ready to sell our house, and we had the cleaning crew come in yesterday, and they were cleaning our windows. And I just look back, and I just felt like God say, that's how sometimes your perspective is. Because we see something every single day, and it doesn't look dirty, and all of a sudden they come and clean it. And what you're saying is you clean your heart of the anger, and at the moment, there was no solutions because you were just so angry. You couldn't see the answers to your problems because you were blinding yourself with this anger, with this unforgiveness. And once you released those, once you wrote out the anger, you're like, you could see the solution, and I gave you the confidence.
Yes, it did.
Wow. I want to ask that. So audience, right now, this is where I want you to get a pen and paper and write this down. So ask yourself, what anger issues do you need to write down? What do you need to write out in anger right now? What do you need to write down in anger? And ask yourself that question. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. So ask yourself, what do I need to write out? What anger do I need to write out? Because you can't see the solution that's right in front of you right now because you're in that anger of just in that state of anger, looking at that dirty window, like my windows were dirty. And once you release that and write that anger out, the solution's right in front of you, and you're going to have the confidence to see it. So what did you do after you gained your confidence? What's the next step you took? How did you start like becoming who you are today now? Because now, like, I see you and I don't see this woman like you're describing. I see this accomplished speaker, accomplished author. You have an amazing website. So how did all this confidence give you the ability to become who you are today?
As I was starting to clear the vision and seeing where anger had blinded me, I was also able to see myself. And I started to see that the glimpses of who I was before this marriage, who I was before this moment, who I was before all of these things felt like they were closing in on me. And I was able to come up with a solution and leave that marriage. Let everything go. Once you let go of the anger, there's nothing that you aren't willing to let go of, because at that moment, my life was more important than anything that I could have lost, any things that I just let them have it. I gave up everything and I was able to step up. I got with my sister and I stayed there. I went back to school. And that was amazing because that was my first college experience. And I didn't think I was smart. I was told I wasn't smart. And I got a 4.0. I was starting to just find ways to put back in all the holes that were made by my own perception, by the voices of those that did not know themselves. And so I started to just find ways. It became almost like an obsessive thing. If this foundation was to break me, all of a sudden I had control to put the pieces back together or choose the pieces I wanted. And so I started with leaving that marriage and I got up out of there. And that was the first start. Yeah. And I slept on the floor with my children, had an air mattress, and I praised God and it was the worst neighborhood. And I praised God every day. And I put pictures up of what my life was going to look like. And I put affirmations up everywhere. If I went to the refrigerator, I would say it so that, and every time I put my feet on the ground, I said, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Every morning that I woke up, I would put every time at the moment that I hit my foot on the floor before I got up, I said, I am grateful. I'm grateful. I'm still here. I'm still alive. And so everything was an adventure. Even losing everything was like an adventure. It was like, I was finding myself. Whoever I wanted to be, I could become. And so I didn't lose anything. I left who I thought I was. And now I could build a whole new version of myself.
Say that again. Say that last phrase. Whatever you wanted to, you could become. Say that again. I want somebody to hear that again.
Okay. Was it that I left who I was and I decided at that moment that I could become whoever I wanted? It was a reinvention of myself and it was exciting.
I want the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show to hear that. You can become whoever you want. Words of wisdom right there from Miss Khalilah Johnson. You can become whoever you want. I think so many times, Khalilah, we try to fit in so much. We try to fit in and we try to fit in our personality that's a square into that circle. And it's not meant to fit in with that crowd. And we want so much because at the end of the day, we all want to belong.
Yes.
We all want to belong to something bigger than ourselves. And so many times we want to fit in with things that aren't meant to fit in our lives.
Yeah.
And I think what you just said is so profound because you can become whoever you want. And I think a lot of this that you're talking about, it took a lot of effort from you. So what did you have to become consistent in? Because you didn't get to where you're at right now without being consistent. So someone right now is definitely listening to you speak. They're listening to this podcast, this amazing show. And what's a step that they can do to be consistent in their life? What's something that you did to really start transforming your heart, your life, and your thinking?
First and foremost, I found ways to speak what I hadn't seen before. Now I'm becoming something. All I've ever seen was this type of hurt, pain, and drama. So now I am now putting it before me images of things that I've never actually experienced or seen anyone close to me experience. And so I filled my head, my eyes, my ears. I didn't talk to the same people. I had to withdraw from the things that were the familiar, and I had to leave everything that I knew. And it was lonely. It was very lonely, but it was a consistent place of searching for new. It was a consistent place of looking for voices, even if those voices were just online. I remember just continuously going back to church and going to a prayer meeting. I just wanted to hear people who thought differently. I wanted to be close to hear them, study them, imagine how people who lived that didn't have the things that I struggled with. And so I continued to just show up everywhere that I could. I went where I could. And I found peace in the words of people that were wiser than me. It was my discovery. I was consistent in finding someone wiser than me consistently.
Wow.
And grasping from that. And I continue to grow.
Wow. I never saw it. So you were consistent in just looking for new things, new adventures.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what kills us most of the time?
What's that?
Commonality.
Yes.
Commonality. Because everybody hears, I get out of your comfort zone, get your creatures of comfort, but the common things that we experience day in, day out, that commonality is what keeps us from growing. And I love what you said. You were lonely, and people realize they don't realize that season of change is going to be lonely. I remember when the first time when my dad passed away, and just that season, I really stopped going out to clubs and drinking in that part of my life. And it's like, it was lonely because I was so used to going out with my friends, and I wasn't feeling it. And it's a lonely spot. And then they pick on you because you're like, oh, and then so many times when we get that picked on, it's like we give in to that temptation. So I think this show is really edifying some people out there and encouraging them that, hey, if you're hanging around with a group of people that's picking on you, maybe that's not the group of people you need to be hanging out with. If you're trying so hard to fit in, maybe that's not the group for you. And you want acceptance so much, and the reality is you've already been accepted. You're already approved because there's a creator who loves you more than you can imagine. Let me ask you this. So what makes Miss Johnson distinctive? What separates you from the masses?
I think that the very distinctive thing about me is that I'm not afraid to lose anything. I'm not afraid to give it all I have. I'm not afraid to let go of what's familiar. I'm not afraid of risk. I take them often. And I'm not afraid to invest in myself. I'm not afraid. There's something about going through life not knowing and feeling worthless and not feeling like you are worth anything, and the light coming on and say, not only are you worth it, but you are worthy of so much more. And being able to say, I am my greatest investment. I am worth the investment. And being able to look in the mirror and say, you know what?
Say that again. Say that again. I am my greatest investment. Say that again. I want the audience to hear that one again. Say those two things, please.
I am my greatest investment. I'm worth it. I'm worth it. I'm worthy. And the calling that I carry is worth it. And so no matter how uncomfortable, I challenge myself. I'll go through, and it does. There's cycles. Every cycle almost feels like a growth. Sometimes feels like a dying experience. You're dying to the version that you once were, and it always leads a place of grief almost. And you are climbing, but at every peak of one mountain, you go to another mountain, and you're at the bottom of that mountain, and you're in unfamiliar territory. And it continues, but you know that once you recognize, once that spark turns on, you realize there's purpose in me, and there's purpose in you. Then you won't stop until you get it. And you don't necessarily know all that you're going for. You just know you can't stay here.
Woo! So, man, it's getting hot in the studio. It's hot in here. Woo! Guys, I feel that passion coming out. The Holy Spirit. Something's coming out. Boom, baby. It's funny you say that because I was talking to one of my coaching clients today, and we were just talking about it. And I said, one of the biggest reasons you're not winning is because you're not investing in yourself. And so many entrepreneurs don't make it as business owners, as entrepreneurs, because they don't make that investment. They can't release that. I call it the employee mindset.
Yeah.
They don't release it. They don't develop that business mindset. And I take it a step further. I say, you got to see yourself as a successful business or woman. And when you develop that mindset, when you start to develop that, one of the first steps in doing that is it's an investment. Like you just said, that was so powerful. I just felt that when you said that. Because the problem is we see it as a cost. And if you see something as a cost, you're never going to make that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I first started opening in business. It's like spending $500. I was like,
Right. I remember that too.
I'd be like Stanford. Do you remember Stanford and Son where he goes, it's the big one, Elizabeth.
Yes.
It's the big one. Elizabeth. That's the way I felt. Elizabeth.
Yes.
Elizabeth. My son was like, Dad, who the heck's Elizabeth?
Yes.
I said, son, it's an old TV show. You got to see it.
Yes.
Man, I was like, the world's in their head. I'm $1,000 on Daniel Gomez Inspires. Now I'm like,
yeah.
I got overworked about what? And it's amazing when you grow your capacity. It's just how $500 becomes 1,000, 1,000 becomes 2,000, and it's like 5,000. I almost had another heart attack at 5,000. I'll tell you that. But once you hit that $5,000, $10,000 mark, it's there. The next level is gonna come. But it's just like,
yeah.
Now I look at what I spend on month on just in business, and it's like, to make a great living, to be a successful business, like you said, you have to invest in yourself, and it's going to cost you a couple of $1,000 a month just with that and expenses to get your platforms, your business expenses, everything. It's part of the game. Man, you're just throwing some bombs in here. I'm enjoying this time with you. So let me ask you this. So what's next for Khalilah Johnson?
Wow, there's so much next. I have to actually focus in all the things now that I've discovered my imagination. There's so many things. But right now, speaking, I'm going to your event.
Yes, we got you coming here July 24th and 25th.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
It's your Shock Speaking Academy.
Yeah.
Thank you for that plug, by the way.
Listen, I'm excited. You're awesome. Like, I want to learn from the best because I'm worth it. And I know that every investment and those that have gone where you have not gone will continue to grow. And so will grow me. So I am expecting, you know what I'm expecting? Sometimes I don't share my dreams because everybody can't handle them. But I am expecting every seed that I planted to give me over 100-fold a return. I know that I'm betting on myself because I believe. I believe in the promise now. I didn't always believe in myself. But once you believe that what God said and what is inside of you and the promise that is inside of you is going to change lives, it's going to impact the future, I will pay any price that I have. And I've sold my furniture before. My husband is supportive. I've done whatever I can do, and I'm not afraid because I know it's going to reap a reward. And not just in my life. It's going to reap a reward for those that are waiting to hear a voice of someone and see a face that says, wait a minute, if she did it, I can do it too. That drives me, and it's fire in my belly. And it's the reason why there's anything I have in my hand, I'll put it towards it, because what's going to come forth is many people that start to discover who they are and their God purpose and change others' lives. And it'll be a momentum. We've got enough hate in this world.
That was so powerful. That, you just made me think. I was talking to this good friend of mine. He lives in Detroit, and he called me yesterday. He goes, hey, dude, I'm really digging your show. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, man, no, really. And we were just talking, and like, he really brought me to tears because you don't realize the impact you have sometimes as a person. And when I heard him talking, I was like, he's really talking about the Daniel Gomez Inspire show. And I say that because I just heard you say what you said, and your dreams and your aspirations are so big. And if they're not bigger than you, then you're dreaming too small. Never in my life did I ever think I would have a show of my own and that people would want to come on. I mean, I'm being honest, right? You don't think about it. And the it arrived, and what you just said just really touched my heart, how made me reflect of what me and Alan talked about, because he really touched my heart. So I say that because I want you to know that the same way I touched Alan's heart, you're going to touch thousands of hearts, hundreds of thousands. So just get ready, because it's coming your way.
Thank you.
So I love to end the show. Unfortunately, it doesn't even seem like we've been talking for an hour, but we're having too much fun with the moves, and it's a big one, Elizabeth. I love my guests to leave us with a word of wisdom or a quote that's carried them through in one of the hardest times of their life. And I want you to just really give us a word of wisdom or a quote that you use. And I think right now our nation needs to hear it. A lot of women, men, kids need to hear it, because I think there's a lot of children that are lost too right now, especially teenagers.
The quote that comes to mind is a quote that I wrote it. It's not to brag on myself, but I wrote it a year after I tried to take my own life. And I look back on that notes when I started to just find different things, and I would just write it out because, again, a pen helped me unpack. And I said, today I learned from yesterday to change my tomorrow. I believe what I gathered from when I wrote that was every single day that we have is a day to learn, to grow. I don't have to be the same person I am tomorrow. And every day that we wake up, that is an advantage to take even the disadvantages and build on it. It's not a pullback. It doesn't even matter what it seems like is being taken away. It is an advantage to grow from any adversity that you are faced with. And we are made to continue to build, even if it's the bricks that are thrown at you. Continue to grow every single moment that you've been given.
Wow. Build with the bricks that are thrown at you. I love that. That's my takeaway from that. You hear that, Daniel Gomez Inspire Show? Build with the bricks. People are throwing bricks at you, baby. Get those bricks and make your foundation and stand on it and say, look at here, look at here. Woo, man. I love that.
Come on.
Wow.
We rise.
Build with the bricks that are thrown at you. Yes. I love that. Man. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being part of this amazing time. Thank you for donating your time and just really being here with us, Ms. Johnson. It was a blessing. Where can people find you? How can they get a hold of you? I know you're so hot. You're kind of hot to handle right now, but if they want to get a hold of Miss Khalilah Johnson, where can they find her at?
Well, you can go to my website at KhalilahJohnson.com. I would empower you to register for my email list. It's so many things going on. I am in a learning zone right now, so things are a little quiet. But in fact, more to come. There's so much going on. I'm working on my second book, and there's so much more resources that I want to be able to provide. So keep connected through that.
Awesome. Well, I want to invite our audience here. Please, if you have a Facebook account, please join us to our group, The Distinctive Syndicate. We have a lot of inspirational quotes there, memes, and just videos that come out to really edify and inspire you and encourage your soul and feed your heart. So we love to have you join our family there, our community. That's Distinctive Syndicate on Facebook. And you'll see a picture of me right now with Michael D. Butler for our Speaker Academy, I believe. And actually it has this distinctive. We just put up our new, I'm already forgot. Things are changing so fast. We put up our new logo, actually, Distinctive Syndicate. So you'll see that on the Facebook group. So we just submit your request to join us, and I would definitely look at it, and we would love for you to be a part of our community. Until next week, that's a wrap for this week's show, and we'll see you next time here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.